Taiwan is bursting with heaps of fun places to explore. Join me, Amber Hatfield, as I hit up travel hotspots, soak up some culture, and hunt down hidden gems. Let's go! Hi, welcome back to Let's Go. On today's episode, I have a super fun guest who I'm really excited to have, which is Emma.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here as well.
So Emma was a previous host at RTI, and I'm sure you all know that.
Yeah, I used to host a travel show here called Island Adventures, and that was really fun to, talk about a bunch of fun places in Taiwan with people who like to blog about it.
So I feel like I got a lot of inspiration from your show as well.
And I'm not surprised.
I've listened to a lot of your episodes, so I'm really excited to chat to you about your experience of travel in Taiwan because you've been here for 5 years, and to hear about what's kind of your memorable experiences in Taiwan, places you'd recommend to people and things like that. So why don't we start with, what is your most memorable place that you've traveled to in Taiwan, do you think?
That's hard, but I feel like the place that I just keep going back to, whether it's with friends or by myself, if I have a specific plan in mind or I just want to go there to chill, is going to this place called Dulan in Taidong. And I think it just had a huge impact on me because it was the first place I ever went in Taiwan traveling alone and staying in a hostel. Like, I went there maybe 6 months after I'd moved to Taiwan and I hadn't stayed overnight anywhere. And I just picked this place randomly because I saw, there's a place called Dulan Mountain that I can climb there. Like, the music scene is apparently cool there. Like, they have open mic nights and stuff. And I just went there to check it out. And I really just fell in love with the place. And I think in my first year in Taiwan, I went there like 7 times. And the crazy thing is, it was maybe 2 years after my first time that I went there that I even hiked Dulan Mountain, which was the reason I had gone there in the first place for the first time. But it's just like I kept meeting these really interesting people, and I loved going to the beach and swimming there. And then there were all these musicians there, which was really cool. My first time I was there, I also had this kind of crazy romantic experience.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Yeah, I was just there, and the boy who was sleeping on the bottom bunk of my bunk bed, we just had this sort of crazy connection.
Ooh.
And I had to leave to go back to Tainan 2 days after that. But I was just kind of on a whim, I like it if you came back with me. And
wow.
Yeah, he came back with me, and we ended up dating for a year.
No way.
Yeah.
This is a crazy story.
It didn't end up working out, but I still have very fond memories of being there and just just seeing it as a place where spontaneous things happen.
Yeah, I've actually never had a holiday romance or something like that before, so that sounds super fun to me.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I've been to Dulan maybe once or twice, and I climbed the Dulan mountain, and it's quite nice, yeah. But I remember when you got to the top, there's no view.
Yeah, there's a view close to the top, but then when you get to the actual top, it's I think the view is amazing looking up at it, and then looking down from it is nice too. I feel like it's more about the climb than the actual view at the top, not to sound
journey,
cheesy.
Not the destination. Yeah, I think it's nice. Yeah, I like Dulan a lot, but I've only been there a couple of times. But I went there actually when my dad came to Taiwan, and I took him there, and he liked it a lot too. It's just more chill on the East Coast side, and there are quite a lot of kind of foreigners, maybe they are working online and stuff like that, and they just stay in those hostels and kind of do that digital nomad kind of vibe.
Yeah, I worked at one of the hostels there actually on one of my school breaks. It was just 2 weeks. And I'd never worked at a hostel before, but it's just one of those places, and this was before COVID, so there were lots of foreigners coming in, and the levels are starting to go back to that anyway. But yeah, there were just always people coming in from all over the world with all different backstories, and it was just a really cool place to get to meet people with different life perspectives.
Yeah, it's a good place to go solo as well, so you can meet lots of people.
Yeah.
And so you said that you went to Dulan by yourself the first time. And have you been doing, or did you do much solo travel in Taiwan, while you've been here in this 5 years? Because I feel like Taiwan's very safe, a good place to solo travel. So what was your experience of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest solo trip ever has been in Taiwan. I was originally supposed to have my best friends from the US come to visit me in March of 2020, and then COVID happened. They couldn't come. I couldn't go to any other countries. I had 2 weeks off from school. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And one of my friends had ridden a bike all the way around Taiwan.
Wow.
And I was just sort of inspired by that, and also by meeting someone, also in Dulan actually, who was a girl kind of like me who wasn't like really into biking or anything, but she's like, trust me, you can do it, just like take your time and everything. And I didn't want to do it with anyone else really, because I was just like, oh, what if I like fail at this? Or yeah, to me, honestly, it was like less scary to do it alone than it was to do it with someone else. So I rode around the whole island in like 12 days or something. Yeah, and that was really great. I really liked being by myself actually for that time, and like listening to music or podcasts as I was riding and everything, and just stopping in a bunch of little towns that I never would have taken a train to go see, but because you're going at a slower pace on a bike, that it was really nice to just kind of stop and slow down and enjoy, I don't know, the experience a bit more.
Yeah, that is such an experience, because I've had a friend who did the Huandao, like the whole island trip, by walking. Like after he finished uni, he did that. But I've not really met that many people who have done it, like by walking or by cycling or whatever. I feel like the cliffs and like the hills and everything get pretty crazy in some points. Like it must have been hard.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was helped by the fact that I rented this bike from Giant that had like 26 gears or something. So I was definitely using all of those as I was going up and down, and it was a pretty light bike. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard, like going from the West Coast to the East Coast. There were just a lot more hills and everything, but it was really beautiful. And that's what I really liked about being like traveling solo, is I could go at whatever pace I felt comfortable going. I could stop whenever I wanted to. And yeah, honestly, for me, like I had to start very early in the day, and sometimes I wouldn't get to my destination until nighttime, but I was enjoying the whole process of riding the bike and just seeing so much of Taiwan's natural scenery in these little towns and meeting people along the way that were very encouraging. I don't think I've ever done a solo trip like that before, but I'm glad I did it in Taiwan, because I feel like it's a really safe place and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like there's also, I mean, it sounds like it was a really great trip, but I feel like there's also quite a lot of areas where maybe if you're cycling through in Taiwan, it's maybe an industrial park or like industrial roads and stuff like that. Did you find that it was also a bit like that in some places?
I feel like it was more like that on the West Coast, which is also pretty flat in general. So I didn't really spend too much time on the West Coast. Since it's so flat, you can kind of go through that more easily. So like the time it took me to go around like south from Tainan, then up to Taipei probably took like 2/3 to 3/4 of the trip. And then going from Taipei down to Tainan only took like 1/3 or 1/4 of the trip. So I feel like there I didn't really appreciate the natural scenery as much. Like there wasn't really anything to see, but I could stop in some like smaller towns and like explore some cities a bit more that I wouldn't have necessarily stopped in.
So you talked about the natural scenery, and I feel like Taiwan in general has a lot of beautiful natural scenery. What do you think is one of the most beautiful landscapes or like natural scenery areas that you've been to or seen in Taiwan?
I feel like one of my best experiences in nature here was this camping trip in Nantou, and I forget the exact name of the camping ground, but it was literally right on top of these hot springs, and it was February, so it was cold, and it was my first time camping, and I was worried about being cold, and everyone was like, no, trust me, it's going to be perfect, because you put your tent on top of the hot springs that are like under the ground, and it was like having a tent with underground heating, which was so nice. And then from there we drove a car like for a day trip to go to, I think, Xiaoqilai, which is like near Hehuanshan. And I thought that was really beautiful too, maybe just because like the temperature was perfect. You know, you get really hot and sweaty while hiking, but it was cold out, so it kind of like balanced everything out perfectly. And I was also there with just like a bigger group of friends, and we were just having a really fun time there. And yeah, I feel like there weren't that many people there, so it was really peaceful.
That sounds cool. So you mean like the ground is warmed up by the hot springs?
Yeah. Because like the water of the hot springs is like a couple feet away, but you're just on the dirt next to it. And so like the hot springs are still under the ground, so they're heating up the ground.
That's amazing. I've never heard of that. I want to go.
Yeah. No, I'll have to figure out the name.
Yeah, that's super cool. So did you do a lot of camping while you've been here during this time?
My first time camping was in Taiwan. I'd never camped before, and I wouldn't say that like I camp more than like I mean, I feel like I know a lot of people who camp more than I do. But yeah, I try to go maybe a couple times a year, and usually it's when there's some sort of music festival. So like for me, because a lot of times like I haven't had my own form of like transportation to get to these far off like campsites or whatever. Usually if there's a music festival, it's a little easier to get there using public transportation. So I've gone camping for some techno festivals in Sinju and in Taichung, in Tainan. And I feel like, oh yeah, well, this one we didn't go camping for, but you and I went to a nice jazz festival in Taichung, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like most of the camping I've done, there's been a couple times where it was just like purely out in nature, but a lot of times I feel like I do it in connection to some sort of musical event.
Yeah, I think for me, I've not been to any of those camping festivals in Taiwan. I think I just kind of maybe didn't know about them or hear about them so easily or something like that, but I'd really like to go check them out. I think it would be really fun, yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a good combination of, you know, having like this really fun music atmosphere and then also just being able to chill and relax in like this really beautiful scenery.
Yeah, definitely. So how about like other challenging activities in Taiwan? Because I think there's loads of stuff like hiking and river tracing and stuff like that. Have you tried any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I did do river tracing actually near that hot spring camping place that I mentioned. And I was with people who did this a lot more often than me, and they had like special shoes for it and everything, and I was just wearing not flip-flops but like a step up from flip-flops, so they weren't like super secure or anything, and I was just like, am I gonna die? Like nobody else is acting like they're gonna die, but I feel like I could have one wrong move and things could not look so good.
Yeah, well, you got to be careful with river tracing. I mean, like a lot of people, they go with a guide, right? But I guess you say your friends at the time were more experienced.
Yeah, it was nice to like have people that were more experienced, but I was just like, do they think I'm as experienced as them? Because I'm not. Right. So yeah, river tracing, I guess, was something I felt a little more challenged by. And then, you know, something I never got to do in Taiwan that I wanted to do, actually with you, was go hike Jade Mountain. Like we had applied to go to Jade Mountain to hike there, and then because of COVID, our permit got canceled and everything. But I have lots of reasons to come back to Taiwan, but I'm glad there's still places on my list that I want to go to, like Jade Mountain or Orchid Island, that I haven't been to yet that I can look forward to going to in the future.
So that was my chat with friend and previous RTI host Emma Benack. It was so great talking to her about her experiences in Taiwan, and I hope she'll be back soon to visit. Don't forget to join us for the next episode next week when me and Emma talk more about her experiences in Taiwan.